Welcome once again, my fellow manipulators of Digital Fate. I'm Richie, this is Capricorn. Today we're back at it with another standard deck tech for 𝑇𝑒𝑟𝑟𝑎𝑐ℎ Dragonstorm Standard. And this one's a doozy. This one's called Synth Uprising because we're finally brewing a deck with Simulacrum Synthesizer. I've put this off for so long, way too long. I've wanted to play with this card ever since it came out in Thunder Junction. But now we're actually doing it because I have a new twist that lets us essentially use 7 to 8 copies of United Battlefront in this deck with Synthesizer, which just seems insane. We're going to break it all down in a minute and get into the gameplay. Before we do, please like the video. I appreciate you guys that do it every time. It means a lot to me. It helps the channel to grow. It helps more people to see the video. Thank you so much to those that do it. Subscribe if you're new so you never miss an upload. Tons of crazy stuff on the way. And I'll see you live Monday through Friday over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/quarantine_Capricorn. Because if I'm alive and I'm breathing, I'm there and I'm streaming. This is the Synth Uprising. Alright, so this deck's pretty wild. I've been wanting to get to this one for quite a while. We're using Simulacrum Synthesizer, and you've probably seen a bunch of decks like this on the internet, but there's a reason that I'm finally taking the dive and doing a version of my own, and I'll get to that in just a minute. Simulacrum Synthesizer is a 3-drop artifact. When it enters, you scry 2. Whenever another artifact you control with mana value 3 or greater enters, you create a 0/0 colorless construct artifact creature token that gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. So the idea is you get as many synthesizers out as you can, and then you play as many 3-drop artifacts as you can to make as many tokens as you can, and you just overwhelm your opponent and kill them in ways that they just absolutely can't deal with. And you guys have probably seen decks like this on the ranked ladder plenty ever since this card came out during Thunder Junction. But now we're able to take it a step further with United Battlefront, a 4-mana sorcery. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, with a Synthesizer out, we can find 2 3-drop artifacts, put them both into play at the same time on turn 4, and get way, way further ahead than we previously would have been able to do with a Synthesizer. In addition, if we don't have our Synthesizer yet, or if we're just lucky and want to hit a second one, we can just play United Battlefront, find a Synthesizer as one of the targets, and another 3-drop. They'll both enter at the same time, and the other 3-drop will trigger the Synthesizer when it enters, which is kind of amazing synergy. This is already kind of nuts and makes the Synthesizer deck way better than it used to be. But we're able to take it one step further. There are so many artifacts in this deck because we're looking to sacrifice the artifacts as fodder to one of our 4 copies of Repurposing Bay, which is a 3-mana artifact. Pay 2 mana, tap it, sack another artifact, search your library for an artifact that costs 1 more than that, put it into play for free. So if we already have a Synthesizer out, we can start sacrificing our 2-drop artifacts, fetching 3-drop artifacts, and make tokens every time we do it. We can also just sacrifice our 2-drop artifacts to find Synthesizers so that we can start exponentially increasing the tokens that we can make and make things go absolutely bananas. But the part of this deck that I'm bringing to the table is Beseech the Mirror. Since we're already trying to go as wide as we can with artifacts to sacrifice to the Repurposing Bay in the first place so that we can get things like Simulacrum Synthesizer online, it makes perfect sense to play something like Beseech the Mirror. Whereas if we bargain when we cast the spell, sacrificing an enchantment or an artifact or a token, we get to play whatever we find for free off of this, assuming it costs 4 or less. So, in a way, we can actually treat our 3 copies of Beseech the Mirror sort of like they are copy 5, 6, and 7 of United Battlefront. We basically have 7 copies of United Battlefront in this deck because of Beseech the Mirror. We have plenty of cheap artifacts that we're able to sacrifice at any time to just search up a United Battlefront and then play it for free. So it's literally like we have 7 copies of the Battlefront in this deck, and it's absolutely nuts. But it's even a little bit better than that, because in certain situations we can search up something else entirely instead of the United Battlefront if we need something very, very specific. And because we're able to target with tutor rather with 3 copies of Beseech the Mirror or our 4 Repurposing Bays, there are actually a lot more silver bullet one of tutor targets in this deck than you'll usually see in synthesizer decks, because we just have so many ways to search up whatever we might need in the moment that just might help us take over the game against that specific kind of deck that we're up against. So we do have a lot of toolbox targets to search up with those cards. Starting at the bottom of the curve, we have 3 Enigma Jewels, because these can tap to give us the mana that we need to power up a Repurposing Bay. So if we get one of these on 1, and a 2-drop on 2, and a Repurposing Bay on 3, we can immediately use the Repurposing Bay on 3 with the 2 mana we get from the Enigma Jewel, and search up something that very turn by sacking whatever 2-drop we played on 2, and that can be absolutely insane and give us a huge head start advantage. We're also running 3 copies of Grim Bauble, early removal that helps us deal with aggro, that doubles as things that we can sacrifice to Beseech the Mirror later, or Repurposing Bay if we need to tutor up a 2-drop, or whatever the case may be. Really, really important to run this since we are running black for Beseech the Mirror anyway. It just makes perfect sense. Moving on to our 2-drop slots, we have even more removal, 3 Tithing Blades and 3 Spring-Loaded Sawblades to have some versatility in what we can remove and when we can remove it. And then any of those can be sacrificed to the Repurposing Bay to find our Simulacrum Synthesizer, or any of our 3-drops can be sacked to the Beseech the Mirror to find whatever we need. So super, super valuable there. We're also going to run 1 copy of the Irencrag and 1 copy of Fabrication Foundry. I initially considered running 2 copies of one of these or the other one instead of one of each, but I think running one of each just makes sense in a deck that can tutor up whatever they need. And in some scenarios, you might need the Irencrag mana to get to 4 so that you can cast your non-artifact spells like Battlefront or Beseech the Mirror potentially. And in other scenarios, you might just need the extra value that Fabrication Foundry provides you by allowing you to get things back from your graveyard. So if you've got like a Simulacrum Synthesizer in there and you need to dig it out, sometimes the Fabrication Foundry is just going to give you that little bit of extra value. So in a deck that has so many ways to tutor, it kind of makes sense to just have one of each of these instead of, 2 of one or the other. Moving on to our 3-drop slot, we are sort of taking the same approach. We've got the 4 Repurposing Bays, obviously, because as soon as we get those online, we can just take over the game. And then obviously we have our 4 Simulacrum Synthesizer, which we already discussed. But we have those one-ofs that we were talking about earlier. So 1 Perilous Snare so that we can just exile whatever we need to in the moment, and maybe even get some extra value if we hit max speed. But this will also trigger our Synthesizer, which is really nice. A lot of synthesizer decks are running multiple copies of this because it's really good as removal for any non-land permanent while also triggering the synthesizer. But in this deck, since we are able to tutor a lot more, I do think it makes more sense to free up some space for some other silver bullet tutor targets. But we are going to absolutely run the 1 copy. In a similar fashion, we're going to run 1 copy of Braided Net. We can lock down their attackers or blockers over the course of multiple turns. Get value out of it, tutor it up if we need it. We've also got 1 copy of Esoteric Duplicator, a 3-mana artifact that's going to trigger our synthesizer, but also it makes it so that whenever we sack an artifact, we get to pay 2, and then make a new token copy of that artifact at the end of our turn. So once we get the Duplicator out, we can even tutor it up. Every time we sack something to Repurposing Bay to find the thing we're looking for, we get the thing that we sacrifice back, which is super good for like Braided Net because we can use up the counters on it over the course of 3 turns and then sacrifice it, make a new token copy of it, and have all 3 counters back. And we can keep doing that. There is not a non-token requirement to the Esoteric Duplicator. So when that token Braided Net runs out of counters, we can sack it again to make a new fresh token copy with counters. And we just kind of keep doing it while keeping searching for whatever we need with the Repurposing Bay, which can get kind of nuts. We can do that with a few other cards as well, but we also have 1 copy of Worldwalker Helm which allows us to just take this deck and turn it up to 11 if we tutor it up. A 3-mana artifact that's going to trigger our synthesizer. If we would create one or more artifact tokens, we instead create those tokens plus a map token. So we go extra wide with tokens, which means all of the creatures that we're making off the Simulacrum Synthesizer are going to be that much bigger because we have all these extra tokens that power it up +1/+1 each. But also, we can tap the Worldwalker Helm and 2 mana to create a token that's a copy of any artifact token we control, which means we can start making copies of the tokens we make off Synthesizer to have another huge beefy body on the battlefield, and that alone makes it pretty nuts. But when you also combine this with the fact that anything we sacrifice to the Repurposing Bay, when we have Esoteric Duplicator out, we can make a token copy of, that means that we can set ourselves up with a token copy of any artifact in the deck, and then start making a copy of it every single turn with the Worldwalker Helm. So sometimes when you're up against control, and you just need to completely go over their head with value as much as possible, you can tutor up the Duplicator and the Worldwalker Helm and just create ridiculous board states. Most of the time it's going to be very win more, and you don't need to do that. But because we have so many tutoring options in this deck, it's almost zero opportunity cost to just include the option to find these cards, so that if we are up against those long grindy control matches, we can just go over the top with value and completely run them out of cards and just go over their head and just smash them in the face with a million creatures. So absolutely worth including one copy of each of those in a version of the deck like this where we have so many tutors. Moving on to the 4-drop slot, we have 1000 Moon Smithy, which if we search up by sacking a 3-drop, can put another huge artifact creature token on the board, and then can also be sacrificed to find a 5-drop if we need to. Which is also a really nice part of that, because we have the Mightstone and Weakstone on 5. Legendary artifact Power Stone. When it enters, we either get to draw 2 cards if we're not worried about our opponent's board state and we just need to get card advantage, or if we are worried about our opponent's board state, we can give a creature -5/-5 until end of turn and kill it. Either way, we're getting access to 2 more mana, which can power up another Repurposing Bay, and then sometimes we can sacrifice the Mightstone and Weakstone to then find our Chimil, the Inner Sun, which will discover 5 every turn during our end step, which is an insane amount of value against control, but more importantly against control, spells you control can't be countered. So sometimes we just need to search up the food chain with a Repurposing Bay until we get our Chimil out, so that we can get access to that uncounterability. So then we can start going crazy playing our United Battlefronts and Beseech the Mirrors for more United Battlefronts without them being countered. So if you are up against a control deck where you do need to go over the top with value and you are worried about your stuff getting countered, just start at the bottom of the curve with some incidental 1 or 2 drops that your opponent lets through when they're trying to save their counter spells for better things, and then just take your time and work your way up to the Chimil. And then once you have the Chimil out, your opponent will have a light bulb moment, and they'll realize that they can't stop you anymore, and then you can go nuts playing all your 7 United Battlefronts, basically, and just win the game that way. In addition, we do have one other 4-drop, because sometimes this 1000 Moon Smithy might come out a little bit earlier in the game and flip into a barracks of the 1000, and then you don't have a 4-drop artifact to sacrifice to search up your 5-drop so that you can go up the food chain to get to the Chimil, which could be a problem. So we do have a second 4-drop just in case scenarios like that happen, and I think Solemn Simulacrum is probably the best one given those circumstances. When it enters, we get to find a basic land, put it into play, ramp up to doing even more during our turns, and if it dies, we get to draw an extra card, which if we're looking to sacrifice it is especially good because that's free value for us. But even if we're just chump blocking, drawing a card and stalling out our opponent, sometimes that can be good against creature-based decks as well. So that is the deck. I think it works really well. I think going Esper so that you have access to basically 7 United Battlefronts while also having this cool toolbox of effects that you can tutor up depending on what deck you're up against is really awesome. I'm loving the deck. I think I'll probably iterate on it even more in the future. If you're interested in the mana base, check out the full description. I have the whole deck list down there, but we're not going to go over it because we want to get into the gameplay. Let's check it out. Let's see. No white mana, 2 repurposing bays, and all of our top end. That's not going to work. This, kind of the opposite. Now we have no blue mana. Ugh. But at least we do have some removal so that we can sort of take our time getting there. I actually think we can keep this. It's not amazing, but it'll get the job done. It will get the job done. We'll put back 1 bay, and we'll start with the Backstreet, and we'll get rid of the bay. I find that happens all the time. The card that you put back ends up being on the top of your deck. I don't know if that's coincidental or not. Seems kind of weird, though. Alright, we got a Floodfarm Verge. I guess we just get the Enigma Jewel out. We could just throw away a Grim Bauble. That way next turn we have something to sack to the Repurposing Bay. I think I will. I think I will. We don't want to get rid of our Enigma Jewel. That's for sure. Does he have a counterspell? It's going to feel super bad if he has a counterspell, but we can't just not play it, you know? Alright, so we're going to find a 2-drop. I think what we want... It would either be Irencrag or Fabrication Foundry. We probably want to sacrifice it, right? Well, maybe not. Maybe not. Let's grab the Fabrication Foundry. There's some more long-term potential for the Fabrication Foundry. And since we do already have a 4th land for United Battlefront if we top deck it, I'm not worried about the fact that we can't use this mana to pay for United Battlefront. Alright, we got a Verge. Do we just throw away another Bauble? We could throw away a Sawblades. Well, since he's playing 𝕊𝐿, I think it makes sense to do this. I think it makes sense. Specifically because he's playing 𝕊𝐿. We'll scry, it's not going to matter. He's going to make us mill it. Put Chimil on the bottom. We want to still be able to find it if we need it. Alright, end the turn. It's going to mill us with the Monument. Alright, we lose a land which we don't care about, which is why we left it on top. And we lose an Enigma Jewel, which probably one of the better things we'd want him to hit. Or one of the things we'd rather him hit, I mean. Next to a land. Alright, Jace is down. What do you got for me, Jace? What do you got? Gonna make me mill 3. Well then. We need more 2-drops. Don't we? Braided Net. Or a Repurposing Bay. Don't really want to get rid of any of these though, do we? Guess we just do the thing. Sacrifice this. Find a 2-drop. And then we could sacrifice the 2-drop once we untap the bay. We could also just sacrifice the Enigma Jewel and the Irencrag to bring back something. We do kind of have to rush, right? Let's do it. Let's bring back another Repurposing Bay and sacrifice... You know what? Let's just sacrifice the original Repurposing Bay. Why not? And then we can tap this Repurposing Bay, sack the Irencrag to find another synthesizer. That seems good to me. Again, we'll leave a land on top for him to mill away. Lots of shenanigans. I'm really glad I included that one Fabrication Foundry. It's proving to be important. And we can search it up by sacking a 1-drop anytime, so... Bitter Triumph from one of my dudes. I don't think that's going to quite be enough. Alright, he doesn't mill me. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. I guess we go Mirex. And then sack the Mirex to find a 1-drop. And then we'll swing for 4 on Jace. And I think we might be able to have lethal next turn. Maybe. Alright, Mindbreaker comes in. Mills half of our deck, and then he hits the other half with the exhaust ability. So we have to win this turn. We have to win this turn. If we had 2 tokens out, we could do it for sure. With 1 token out, I am not so certain. Well, at least we have a United Battlefront. Guess we'll do that first. So a lot of triggers. And it is definitely possible. I'm just not 100% sure. Dude, so close. So close. Sacrifice. You. Synthesizer. I think that'll do it. Yeah, that puts us at 22. Yeah, that's lethal. Took a little bit of mathing, but we got there. Alright, this looks decent. I like this. We're going to keep it. We could Enigma Jewel on 1, but that means we can't cast something on turn 2. Which I don't love. I think we dump the Worldwalker Helm. We're probably going to dump the Tithing Blade, to be completely honest. I don't think we need to worry about creatures, really. We're going to hit that Battlefront, and we're just going to be off to the races. Alright, he didn't make us discard or anything, so he is definitely behind schedule at this point. We also don't need to play the Tithing Blade, which means, well, we do need blue for the Enigma Jewel, though. Guess we just play the Verge and the Jewel. And then we still probably discard the Tithing Blade. It's a bummer we don't have anything to sack to the Repurposing Bay this turn. Let's see. If we play Verge this turn, we can't play Battlefront next turn. We get to play the Repurposing Bay, but we don't have a lot to use with it. I think we're just going to play the Anchorage and just pass. I mean, it's definitely not mana efficient, but I think we just get there in the end. He's obviously going to try to temp lock down all of his own stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Which means the Enigma Jewel's also going. Probably should have been prepared for that. But I mean, we do have United Battlefront now. Not the greatest hits, but not the worst ever either. Discard a Shadowy Backstreet. He's going to United Battlefront for what? A Talisman and a Momentum Breaker? Doesn't seem that good. Doesn't seem that good. Well, we're going to sack the Sawblades. Find a Synthesizer. Yeah, that looks great. We don't need the Tithing Blade, though. The 1,000 Moons can absolutely stay on top. We'll play the Verge, and then we'll play another Bay. Yeah, we're off to the races now, boys. I don't think he's going to be able to kill us quick enough for the insanity that's about to ensue. He's going to hit temporary lockdown or something that lifts his lockdown so that he can eat the Talisman. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we can either Repurposing Bay or 1,000 Moon Smithy. But we can't do both. I think it's probably better to get this out. Alright. We can do Repurposing Bay shenanigans anytime. So I think it's better to play the stuff that's in our hand and not give him the opportunity to make us discard it. Ooh. Decline. Play the Duplicator. Trigger the Synthesizer. Whenever you sack an artifact, you may pay 2, and then you get a copy of it. Which is kind of awesome. Damn, we don't have the 2, do we? 1, 2, 3. We don't have the 2. We do not have the 2, so... Well, I guess if we... Damn. We have to pay 2 when we sack it, that's the problem. That's the problem. Alright, let's just swing 16. I'm considering sacrificing a Repurposing Bay. Could also sacrifice one of these tokens and find an Enigma Jewel. I don't know if it's worth it. I think we'll just end the turn. He's probably going to eat everything up with a temp lockdown. And I don't think we need 3 tokens to have lethal, so we probably should have sacked a token to find an Enigma Jewel. But I mean, we got there anyway. We have all 3 of our colors. We have 3 lands. We've got a Synthesizer. We've got a Beseech the Mirror. All of this looks really good. Let's keep it. We've even got Grim Bauble to help us stave off some aggro. You know, I think I'm going to keep it. I think I'm going to keep the 4th land. We've got both Thousand Moon Smithy and a Beseech the Mirror. So, yeah, we're going to use it to dig right now. A Synthesizer? Sure. We'll keep that. You know, we probably should have just played the Bauble, to be honest. We could have sacked it to Beseech. We do not want the lands. We do not. Unholy Annex, sure. So we'll go Mirex, Synthesizer. Oh my god. Kinda want the Enigma Jewel. Let's do it like this. Let's just play out the Bauble. And next turn, we're gonna Beseech the Mirror, sack the Bauble, and find a United Battlefront.
Nobody knows Dominarius.
Which should be pretty nuts.
One of your friends has to leave.
Bargain, Bauble. And then we find United Battlefront. We play it for free. And we hit Worldwalker Helm. And that's only creature. I guess we grab an Irencrag then. We got some boys. We got some map tokens. I think it's better to keep the map tokens. They make all of our tokens bigger. So we'll pass the turn. Are you going to make us discard? Alright, Enigma Jewel goes bye-bye. Thousand Moon Smithy's just better at this point. It triggers the synthesizers. Rock Curse, Rakshasa can't attack or block. Well, it can attack, but it'll be sacrificed. It does get to drain, though. Well, let's do this. Yeah, it's just over. It's just over. This looks pretty good. We don't have any of our black, which is a little bit worrisome. Actually, we can't play anything in our hand, can we? We have to get lucky and hit a land, which, I mean, we probably do, but I don't think it's worth the risk. Let's just send it back. Alright, we have white and blue. No black mana. Ugh. This might be worse. Can't go to 5, though. Toss back the Mightstone. Toss back the Mightstone. Black is what we need early, so the fact that we have no black is kind of depressing right now. Alright, it all comes down to this. This next turn is key. If we get a land, we're probably okay. If we don't, we're probably not. Hi. Hello. Another talent. It's funny how they always have two. Nightmare. We'll just dump the expensive thing. Swings for 3, puts us at 15. There's a land. Do we want a Repurposing Bay? I think a land is more important. Let's try to stay mana efficient. Play the Tithing Blade first. Alright, we're going to have access to both Net and Bauble next turn, which is kind of nice. If we land, we can just Battlefront instead, which is even better. I think we probably want to get rid of the Bauble. I think we need the opportunity to get ahead on card advantage with the Battlefront if we draw a land. So we got to keep that. Here's where it becomes tricky. If we keep the Braided Net, we're better off short term. But I don't think we catch up. If our entire board is just 3 lands, a Braided Net with only so many counters, and a Tithing Blade that does nothing, I think we probably lose. So we have to toss the Braided Net and put all of our chips on drawing a land for Battlefront. We just have to. Otherwise, we don't catch up. We should have tossed the Battlefront because we were just going to draw another one anyway. Although he would have made us discard the second one if we had played the Braided Net, right? So I don't know. Maybe this is still the right play long term. Doesn't feel it. Not at the moment, but well, you can't make us discard at least. Holding out hope for a Battlefront. Holding out hope for a Battlefront. But we're really close to dead. Exiles my Braided Net, sure. Swings for 2. So whatever's in his hand is not something he wants to give the prowess trigger to. Is it a counterspell? Huh. We'll grab both of those. That buys us another turn. That buys us another turn. But only another turn. Most likely. I don't know what our opponent is doing right now. Sunpearl Kieran, Hopeless Nightmare, so that you can make me discard the other United Battlefront, and then you get me to 1? No, you play it, you prowess, you kill me. Yep, we're dead. It just took too long. The mulligan didn't help. I think if we hadn't had the mulligan, we probably would have won this. I think it was actually way closer than it looked. But having less cards in your hand against the Pixie deck that's trying to get rid of them all just makes their job a lot easier. This looks pretty good. We have 3 lands. We have access to all of our colors. And we've got a Synthesizer and a Battlefront in our opening hand. And we've got removal. This might be sort of the plan A hand that we're actually looking for. Some early removal to hold off aggro. And then our most important pieces. Do we keep the Battlefront? It's kind of a hard decision. I think we need to get to land quicker so that we can cast the Battlefront that we have. which is a very difficult decision to make, but I think it's important. Let's toss the Tithing Blade. We know for sure we don't have to play it this turn, and the Sawblades is something we can hold up, so we will. Alright, my turn. We'll go Mirrex Synthesizer. Fourth land would be wonderful. Let's take that. We can Battlefront next turn. Here it comes. We don't even need Beseech the Mirror. Unstoppable Slasher. Alright, here we go. Braided Net. Esoteric Duplicator. Give me my triggers. Whenever I sack an artifact, pay 2, create a token at the end of turn. Very, very good. And their graveyard, sure. That's fine, man. That is completely fine. We probably want to Repurposing Bay. We could Perilous Snare. I think the Bay is just better. The Bay allows us to fetch a second synthesizer before we drop our 3-drop. Potentially. Ruthless negotiation, sure. We'll get rid of the bauble. We don't need the bauble anymore. We're long past the bauble being relevant. So, here's what we'll do. Sack the Braided Net. Auto-pay the Duplicator. Find a Thousand Moon Smithy. Make a token. And then we'll play the Backstreet. Set up the top. And then we'll swing 7. And then because we paid the 2, now we get a net that comes back with all 3 counters. So we can actually sack the net every single turn to reset its counters, or like once every 3 turns to reset its counters. Which is pretty awesome. We can also sack the Thousand Moon Smithy if we want, just keep making another one. Definitely get rid of the Sawblades here. Keep the Snare because that triggers the Synthesizer. I think it's just game over. I don't think he has a chance. Make us discard the Snare, or make us sack a creature. Sure. Yeah. It's over, buddy. It's over. Thanks so much for checking out my channel. I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of my patrons over at Patreon. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible, so honestly, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your contributions. If you haven't yet, like and subscribe. The more likes we get and the quicker we get them, the bigger this channel will grow and the faster it will grow. I'd love nothing more than this channel to become something very special for you guys, but it's entirely up to you how fast that happens. Also, if you'd like more deck techs, that's somewhere over there. And if you'd like to see what else the channel's been up to lately, that's somewhere up that way. Also, subscribe, circle below, do all the things.